Welcome to Daily with Doc and Becca. This program is for educational purposes only. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences of the individual sharing their testimony. Results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach. Welcome to Daily with Doc and Becca. This program is for education.
Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Ruth Ellen Sanchez and I am going to be hosting today's Daily with Doc and Becca. Thank you for joining us today. We're looking forward to our guest speaker, Tim Marsh, has a lot to share and we're really looking forward to that. But first, I need to get a little bit of housekeeping done. So this program is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it meant to replace your primary care physician. It is for educational purposes only, and I think that's it. And also, Daily with Doc and Becca is sponsored by dailywithdoc.com. And if anybody invited you to this program, please get back with that person. And if you found us on your own, hello, everyone. So happy that you are here. Sorry about that. And I am going to go ahead and bring Tim on because I want him to tell us about himself because I can't find it. Anyway, I can't find your bio. I'm sorry. It was right there.
That's okay.
So welcome to Doc and Becca.
Good.
Thank you. So this is Tim Marsh of Rooted Somatics. And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Tim Marsh. I'm a licensed massage therapist, personal trainer, former yoga instructor, martial artist, Pilates, PTSD specialist. And I've been doing it for about 25 years. And over the years, I've been able to gain a unique boutique insight into pain and trauma.
Yes, you do some incredible work. I've seen several of your clients because I'm also one of your clients that you've worked with. And they, I mean, for me, you basically helped me change my life.
Well, you changed my life at the same time because we heal. If the therapist works with the person heals the therapist also. There's a reciprocation that not many people talk about.
This is true. Very true. And I've seen a lot of your clients come in there that couldn't even walk. and have traumatic brain injuries and started walking. And he's amazing. He's amazing.
I'm very blessed.
Yes, yes. So you have a topic that you wanted to talk about today. So would you like to tell us about it?
Well, I believe that a lot of the old material that was created back in the 80s and the 90s is very, very important to understand a lot of what's going on nowadays. So if you take me back to my infancy when I was a personal trainer, I found this book.
You have to hold it directly in front of you.
Oh, okay. There you go. Okay. And it's called When Working Out Isn't Working Out. And it's by Michael Gerrish. And it came out in 1999. And what really made a difference for me is I've been using these ideas ever since. So it's part of one of my secret to success. And during COVID, I started to see people getting away from these concepts because they're wrapped up in the trauma of everyday life. And what I really wanted to do today, I wanted to feed clarity. I wanted everybody to feed clarity instead of feeding chaos. So what this topic is about is what are called UFOs, right? Unidentified fitness obstacles. And it's kind of cool. I mean, it's stuck with me and it sticks with people. But a lot of times when we're trying to change our health, our behavior, we run into these obstacles. But a lot of times we don't even know they exist. And when we know that they exist, or like Buddha says, once you're awake, you can't go back to sleep, we can identify them. So I've been using these in every single session. Every single time I interact with people, I have these subconsciously in my head. And what I'm trying to do is use this information to help the people help themselves.
Right. So give us some examples.
Well, first example is emotional history. You have trauma, you have shame, and we have perfectionism. I can't tell you how many times of people have come across the table or into rooted somatics where there are other, therapists, and they've tried to be perfect. And they try to do the perfect rep. They try to do this and they do that. And when they can't, they feel shame. And that has to go someplace. So a lot of times that shame goes right in their body and they swallow that like a big mouth bass with a big jelly worm and they get hooked. So the first one's really important because when you start looking at your emotional history, you start looking at shame. So for me, I was shameful. I'm going to get emotional here, so I'm going to try not to do this. I was shameful of my marriage falling apart. And every other part of my life was fine except my marriage. And I was shameful because I was raised in an environment to feel shame about being me. And because I had ADD and trauma and all that stuff, I wound up walking on eggshells. And when I stopped walking on eggshells, my body started to get better. It started to process and heal itself. And then that led to the trauma getting better. But at the same time, what it also did is it showed me that I was told by my family and my past I wasn't good enough. And how many times has everybody been out there, and you could be out there right now on an elliptical machine and you're doing it and you're feeling pain in your knee and you're like, well, I got to keep going because I'm afraid to gain this weight.
Mhm.
But more importantly, what you also have to do is you have to understand that that behavior is going to guarantee that you're going to fail. So
Yes.
what we're really talking about is emotional understanding. So that's where the emotional history comes in. And then number two is chronic stress and overtraining. So for me personally, I used to be about 275, 280, and I was a power lifter and, bodybuilder and martial artist and whatever else. And I overtrained and I tore my bicep. And the reason I tore my bicep is because of the shame. So you see how they match each other.
Mhm.
So I'm like, oh, I'm Big Tim. I can do whatever I want. And I picked up a metal, they call them a log. It's a metal steel log. And I was deadlifting 475 pounds. And I was done with it, but I racked it and tore my bicep. It wasn't that tore my bicep. It was the fact that I flipped the 700-pound tire down a football field the day before and tightened up my bicep, and the rest is history. But we all have these connections, but a lot of times people don't want to pay attention to it. They want to be able to stay where they are, but they don't know how to do anything but continue to work out because they're afraid to get fat or out of shape. And then they wind up crippling their foot. They wind up messing up their shoulder and they need surgery. And then once they have surgery, then afterwards they go, wow, that was a heavy ride. If they're lucky. Sometimes when they have surgery, they don't come back the same because they
Right.
beat their body up so much. So I guess what I'm trying to do with this talk is feed clarity. Help people feed clarity, not chaos.
Good. I'm glad we're talking about this because a lot of people feel the way you've described. They keep pushing themselves even though they're injuring themselves, and then they cripple themselves, or they fail in the beginning because their body is not strong enough or stable enough to do certain movements, and then they quit
Exactly.
because they just can't, and they don't like the fact, like doing the tree pose in yoga and falling over
Yeah.
each time you do it and just saying, forget it, I couldn't do it that day. I mean, I did that, and but my yoga instructor said, just keep trying, put your
Hmm.
finger on the wall. And if it's just your finger, you're just holding yourself up by a finger, like there's ways of looking at things that change your perception of your perceived failure, when
Right.
all it is the muscles in your leg, which you can explain better than me, but your ankle, your leg, your core,
Hmm.
all of those things have to regain strength, and they have to work together in order for you to do that pose. And there's a couple other poses I used to fall over all the time, and I wasn't the only one in the room.
But that brings up an interesting point because you've got number two, which is chronic stress and overtraining. But what we fail to understand is sometimes we have emotional burnout
Mhm.
and we view it as, or misread it as, physical failure. And we have to be able to look at the 5,000-foot level and the 80-foot thousand level. And that's really looking at it from like a mental model, looking at it from multiple angles. So, if you're a man out there and you can't get your 275-pound max, and the reason that you're upset is because your dad did a number on you and said, you can't fail, you have to be perfect. Then you go ahead and you take it into the gym and you start causing emotional burnout in your body because you're trying to do something and you fail. The moment you lock in that loss and you say you failed, you've already labeled yourself and you disabled yourself. Instead of looking at it and saying, okay, not today, but I'll take a rest. I'll get off the battlefield, but I'll win the war.
Right. It's very important to do that.
Yeah. And not a lot of people want to talk about it. And
Yeah.
then the number 3 is food sensitivity and chemical reactions in our body. So I know this because I'm 57, but when I turned 50, all of a sudden I started to realize I may have a gluten allergy. And I've had a gluten allergy my whole entire life. I didn't realize it. And I was going into hives every day. I went into anaphylactic shock once. And
Hmm.
you just don't know. And there's a lot of people out there who have food sensitivity that they say, oh, well, I haven't had that problem ever. How do you know unless you get tested? How do you know unless you start using techniques like the what is it, the brat diet?
Mhm.
Where you do the bread and the
Uh,
rice, yeah, and the apple and all that. Like, and this is what I mean. Again, we're starting to look at feed clarity, don't feed chaos.
Right. And the elimination diet is you take yourself down to, I think it's chicken. Rebecca, help me out here. What do you start with? You gotta unmute, sweetheart.
Isn't it brat?
That's when you have a sick baby.
I
Yeah,
thought it was no, okay.
but brat is bananas, rice, apples,
That's it.
toast.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I couldn't remember.
So
Yes.
anyway, you've got these food sensitivities and you've got the chemical reactions. And a lot of times that cause inflammation, and inflammation creates fatigue. And then now we go back up to number 2. We have the guy who's doing his bench press and he
Mhm.
failed. Well, could he have been fatigued? Could he have been inflamed? Could he have been overtraining?
Yeah.
Most of us overtrain.
Yeah. I can totally see that because um you want to do, like, I used to work out a lot at home
Mhm.
because I had, a room I could do that in. And I'd pop in a video and I'd try to do exactly what they did.
Yep.
And I hurt myself really bad once. Like, I could barely use it, as you know. My left arm doesn't work quite right sometimes because of that. And then I would get angry. I haven't called, I forget what company it was, but I probably can't mention it anyway. Because they would have the person that did the alternative, like, person would be off to the side instead of right directly behind, but to where you could see them, give you
Mhm.
an alternate way of doing it. Because not everybody's going to get in there and do what Tim Marsh can do. They need to build up to that.
Yeah. And
You
you've
know?
got to embrace that. You've got to embrace the beginner's mind. You just don't go ahead and go, oh, okay, I have studied for 5 years, so therefore I'm an expert. If you
Right.
want to be an expert, you've got to earn it. you've got to earn it, and you've got to slog your way through, and you got to pay your dues, just the way Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant
Hmm.
did. You don't get great unless you pay your dues and you have skin in the game.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's go back to the gluten and the number three. I think it was number three was about food.
Mhm. Food
And
sensitivity and chemical reactions.
yes, because I had that experience myself. I had no
Hmm.
idea that I was allergic to gluten. And then all of them, like wheat, barley, rye, and then oats, I think, oh, it's not a big deal.
Hmm.
But once you clean up your diet, and then, yeah, you might be able to get away with the oats one day, but if you do it 2 days in a row, then it starts to affect you the same way because it's still got that chemical component of gluten.
Hmm.
And then, not to mention all of this stuff they spray on crops so that they'll ripen at the same time. Like,
You bring up an interesting point, because I'm seeing a lot of people have a lot of complicated autoimmune disorders. You could have Sjogren's here and you could have Hashimoto's here.
yes,
And you look at those particular issues, and you look at them back in the 70s, and stuff, and they're on the rise. So a lot of times it's, we're eating foods that have these chemicals. And also, let's not forget, the animal, if I'm eating meat and that animal has suffered, then I'm eating the stress of that animal, and that's also going to affect me also. And I used to be vegetarian and vegan. When I turned 50, I can't survive that way. So I get my meat from sources where the animal has one bad day in its life and never knows anything but happiness. But when I do eat cheap Charlie meat, right? Or I eat meat from a grocery store, I've done that,
huh,
I feel bad.
yeah,
So I mean, and I'm not getting on that bandwagon. I'm not going to get about vegan and meat and all that stuff. We're all different. We're all unique. And I lived the vegan and vegetarian lifestyle, and it wasn't for me.
mm,
At first it was, and then my body went, okay, I'm going to find homeostasis, and I'm going to start to flip the switch.
yes,
So So hopefully people don't get upset. Remember, it's my opinion, but also we're all diversified. So nobody's going to be the same.
yeah. Nobody is the same. We can be similar and have similar
Right,
experiences, but we're never exactly the same. Um,
right.
yeah, because I know that when I um well, before I found Dr. Wallach and before I changed my diet and stopped eating the
Mm-hmm,
typical foods, which, no wheat, barley, rye, oats, no fried foods, no bottled oils, no
mm-hmm,
meats with nitrates and nitrites, and
mm-hmm.
limiting the sugar to natural sugars or no sugar at all, and the different things. I used to play around with, okay, I won't eat most of that, but I'll still eat my non-bread on my birthday because I wanted it on
Mm-hmm.
my birthday, and
Sure, sure.
stuff, and then don't feel good for a couple of days. But when I was really strict and cleaned up my diet for 3 months, I didn't eat anything on that list, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And and then I accidentally ordered something. I was doing a limo job because I drive limos, and the funeral was happening, so I had time I went to one of my favorite vegetarian restaurants, and because I love this wrap that they have, and I forgot to say, if you don't have a gluten-free wrap, then just put the contents in a bowl and I'll eat
Yep.
that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was sick literally for 3 days. I couldn't leave my house. I thought I had
Yeah.
the because one of my passengers said that their sister couldn't come because she was sick, and that I guess he had been around her or something and said, thank God that I didn't get it because I saw her like 2 days ago. But that, and then I'm like, and then I felt better because after that time period, and So I wanted to test
Mm-hmm.
because I'm like, was it the gluten or because it didn't feel like a stomach bug?
Right.
So I went back and I ordered that again and I
Mm-hmm.
ate it and it was the same thing. And it's like 3 days, stay at home. It affected me in a way that I was really shocked.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden, all of my life, how I felt for the last like 20 years, all of a sudden made sense.
It's like a light bulb one.
Yes, like
Yep.
all the stomach issues that I had and all of those things that affected me. And, like I had some serious issues and was a big,
Yep.
I was a fluffy girl, 235 pounds or more. And I lost a lot of weight just
Mm-hmm.
changing my diet, feeding my body nourishment, so that food component is really
Sure.
big. People think it's no big deal and they can eat gluten once in a while or something else. Like I'm allergic to quinoa. I can't eat quinoa either or
Yep.
coconut, but I
Yep.
know that if I eat coconut, my throat's going to close and I'll be in trouble. But people
Mm-hmm.
think, oh, I'll be uncomfortable. I'll have a bellyache. It's no big deal, but it sets your body back. Do you agree?
I do, and not just myself, but other clients. Like they'll be frustrated because they've hit this plateau, and they want to lose 30 pounds, but as we're working and together and I'm starting to find out and they find out about my experience and a lot of the people we have in the office are well versed in this kind of stuff, right? But once they start to clean, they're like, oh my God, it had nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with my internal system. And that's pretty much what this whole talk is about, is it's not the program. It's the software that's running behind the program. And a lot of us go, okay, well, I'll change this variable. I'll change this periodization. I'll do this and do that. And if you run into a roadblock, sometimes the best thing to do is stop, drop, and roll and start to think about what's really going on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
where'd we leave off? Oh,
Three, I
number
think.
4, toxic fitness beliefs. No pain, no gain.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, and there are people that use that, they know it, but they think of pain from the exercise. But what when the exercise is over and you're walking down the stairs and you feel pain in your knee, right? You can't just go ahead and say, oh, well, that's just exercise. No, no, that's also your body too. So if if you are feeling chronic pain in your joints and you've tried everything, just feed clarity, don't feed chaos. Have it checked out. Because the problem is this phrase, no pain, no gain, overrides our body's intelligence.
Right.
And a lot of time we're like, okay, my body is a machine and I'm going to beat it to death. And then afterwards, then I'm going to deal with the consequences. And I can tell you, I have a lot of people who are on my table on a weekly, daily basis that look me straight in the eye and they go, have I gone too far? And I said, yes, you have. And then they get surgery and then they feel better because they've gone through it. But, it's sometimes on the other side of pain is pleasure, but you got to go through it.
Right. Yes. I know that one of your clients exercised to the point where they needed major surgery and it took over a year to recover. I
Yeah,
think
that hurt
correct.
because I really tried to protect that person,
Right.
and they were feeding a monster that could not be fed.
Mm, right.
But remember, that's just not that person. There's
No.
people like that individual who come in all the time.
Right. And if you say that one voice speaks for 1,000, then one example of someone speaks for 1,000 examples of that
Ex-
situation.
Exactly.
And there are
You know?
thousands of us out there that exercise to a point of ridiculousness. Like in,
Yeah.
in high school, if I ate spaghetti dinner and I was at my girlfriend's house, we go swim in the ocean for hours to burn it off. And then I realized, like, one of my boyfriends said, what you're doing is not right. There's something wrong. And
Hmm.
you're like borderline anorexic bulimic, which was big words that nobody really heard about. But he literally told my parents, don't let her get up from the table for 30 minutes after she eats. And I was able to kind of break that cycle. And it hadn't gotten
Right.
out of control. It was just, if I would have kept going, that would have
Hmm.
been really bad for me.
But you see, if we go back to number one, which is the emotional history, we go
Mhm.
back to shame. We go back to perfectionism. We go back to the fact that the trauma or whatever, right? So you
Right.
see how these feed each other.
Mhm.
And, I think they're very important. Number five is mental health conditions, right? So
Mhm.
you take me tearing my bicep. I had ADD. I was all jacked up, 280, just having fun, overdid something. Um, or you have people that say, well, I have to work out. Okay. But remember, the title of this is When Working Out Doesn't Work Out. So when you have ADD
Mhm.
and you overdo it, you've got to learn how to chill out. You've got to learn how to live. You've got to learn to understand that the method is the trap and the trap is the method.
Right.
And then seasonal affective disorder. I can't tell you how many times during the winter months I see people's emotions yo back and forth. As soon as that sun comes out, winter goes away, sun comes up, and they're like, wow, I'm a whole different person. But what
Yeah.
people don't understand is traditional Chinese medicine figured that out. They figured that out and they said, oh, okay, during the winter months, people get depressed. Their
Mhm.
blood gets cold. The water gets cold. So therefore they get depressed. And then what happens is they wind up getting into this loop. And if a lot of times, if we just take a look at it and say, okay, what is really happening? And then we start to look at it from, okay, I have ADD. Well, if I don't have ADD under control, it controls me.
Yeah.
And I've learned to master my ADD. I'm not perfect, but I'm mastered enough that I can pay my bills and get out of the house on time. you know?
That's good.
Yeah.
It's difficult sometimes. I have a few people in my life that have that issue, and it can be a real struggle because you just get so sidetracked and you don't even realize that you're sidetracked. I even
Right.
sometimes have that problem. I'll get so focused on something, and then it's like 20 minutes has gone by, and I'm supposed to be somewhere in 5 minutes. It takes
Hmm.
me 15 minutes to get to, or yeah.
And then the last one is body mechanics.
What is that?
So that is my wheelhouse. So that's skeletal structure, that's muscular structure, that's fascia structure, that's lymphatic structure, that is postural. So you take somebody, they may have I mean, I can't tell you how many times I tell people all the time, oh, I have a rotator cuff tear on my right hip. Okay. And then I say, well, that's a progressive mistake. I've been told it can be fixed. No, it can't be fixed because it's inside. The labrum helps keep the head of the femur inside the acetabulum. Well, when that thing gets breached, you have a lot of room, not a lot of support.
Right.
And then that affects the skeletal structure, which affects the myofascial structure. So, anyway, during all this time, they're inflamed. And what people really need to truly understand, not understand, but really understand, when you're inflamed, you will not lose weight. Your body won't let it happen. If you're in pain, you won't lose weight.
No, you won't.
Right.
You will not lose
So,
weight.
right.
And
So
try.
this is the truth. This is the truth. And so anyway, so now you've got these 6 issues, right?
Hmm.
Now, how do we like rewrite from the inside out? How do we take our mental model? How do we change our mental focus? Well, the first thing we have to do is we have to reframe our goal, right? We have to say, okay, what's my goal? My goal is to lose weight. Okay. So that's just one part of it. How about if we change that paradigm and we change, I want to reframe my goal from performance to alignment. So now my goal is to say, oh, okay, I'm not just going to focus on weight loss. I'm going to focus on my mental weight loss. I'm going to focus on my physical weight loss. I'm going to focus on my spiritual weight loss. What I'm going to do is focus on me as a collective, holistic individual instead of this Domine Gato, Mr. Roboto stuff in the gym where it's like, okay, I do this, I should get this. No, you shouldn't. Life is about diversification. So a lot of times, I mean, we talked about people who harmed themselves. Well, they were that horse with the blinders on going, I got to get that carrot. I got to get that carrot at all costs
Mhm.
because I'm shameful. Oh, I'm burned out, but I made a mistake because I think it's because it's a physical issue on my behalf. I've got possible food allergies. I've got chemical reactions in my body. I've got no pain, no gain. I don't pay attention to my body. I have no body intelligence, and then, so what happens is we have to start looking and changing performance into alignment.
Hmm. So
And
tell
then
us, oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, you go
No, go
ahead.
ahead.
I was just going to say,
Well,
can you elaborate a little bit on body intelligence? Because it sounds simple, but it's really not quite simple. Is it?
no, body intelligence is not simple because a lot of times I'm going to go off script. Okay. Help me pull back on. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Um, a lot of times because trauma hits us,
Mhm.
what we wind up doing is if I'm a young child and let's say my parents own a big giant shop, right? And they've got a big, beautiful glass display in the front window. And I'm a little person. I want to be able to put part of myself on the shelf and go, "Oh, look at me. What if my parents say that that piece that's out there is not good enough? It's not worthy enough. What am I going to do? I'm going to take that thing and stick it back in the closet. It's never going to see the light of day."
Yeah. Been there, done
Right.
that.
And I've been there and I've excavated all kinds of times. And just when I thought I was done, it drew me back in. But what I'm saying is that if you're talking about body intelligence, you've got to be willing to go through the fires of hell to get to the other side. You got to go through that trauma. You got to go through not the rainbows and puppy dogs. That's easy. You got to do the hard stuff. And we know someone who just went through the hard stuff that came here and visited me, and she knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
But anyway, that's what that is.
Okay. Thank you. So we'll
No
get back
problem.
on track.
Thank you. Number 2, we got to upgrade our inner voice. We got to treat ourselves with a feather, not a scalpel. We got to look at ourselves as unique. And now we start going back to the shame. We go back to the emotional burnout and all this stuff. And what it does is it makes us where we are. But what people don't understand is The famous quote by Jim Rohn, who, by the way, Tony Robbins studied and mastered. Jim Rohn and Tony Robbins studied, I mean, it's amazing. But what Jim Rohn talks about is he has this one phrase: if you will change, things will change. And it's really that simple. But a lot of times we don't know how to change. And this is like tools for your tool belt. That's why I love this book so much. But so when we start talking to ourselves with a feather instead of a scalpel, we got to understand we're human. We got to understand we're going to make mistakes. We're going to understand we're spiritual beings having human experiences.
Yes, we are. We have to remember that.
And we have to be easy on ourselves. And for God's sakes, we have to be easy on each other too.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up in a toxic environment that would make people throw up.
Yes, you did.
But what happened? I chose to survive. I said, I will not allow that which tried to kill me. I owned it. I accepted it.
Mhm.
And I paid my dues. And now I have a PhD in pain and trauma. And now I help people get out of it. But I use my inner voice. My inner voice used to be really bad because I never had one. I was taught never to have one. So anyway, when you upgrade your inner voice, you want to replace it with not judgment, but curiosity.
Yeah. That sounds like a really good idea. And
Yeah.
that makes sense.
And then number 3, this one is really hard because we have to understand when our bodies had enough. You know what I mean? We have to understand there has to be a refractory period. And, there's a great philosophy that when you burn yourself out, that's because you put yourself out so much that there's ashes. And what you need to do is take those ashes, you need to put water on them, you need to plant the seed, you get to start growing again. But if you're always robbing Peter to pay Paul, you're going to get burned out. And what we have to do is understand there has to be a rest, recovery, nourishment cycle. And a lot of times, the only time we're able to sit back in a place by ourselves for 5 minutes is when we've been grounded by pain, we've been rocked by divorce, we've been rocked by all kinds of stuff, our boss not understanding, or God forbid, we get kicked out of the tribe of a company we've done for 15 years, and all of a sudden they're like, well, have fun. Why do we have to wait so long till it gets to that point? We don't.
No, we don't. Why do we think we have to hit rock bottom and go?
Maybe it's because that's the way we learn. Maybe that's the way if a baby's touching a hot stove, it burns its hand and goes, okay.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm never going to touch that again. Maybe that's it. But now we're going back to the embodied intelligence, because if you really listen and you're really quiet, the body will tell you what's going on. The body will give you clues. But we can't listen to the clues if we're not feeding clarity. If we're not taking the time.
So let's read the title of that book and who's the author for
I'm
our
sorry.
listening audience out there. So it's
When Working Out Isn't Working Out by Michael Gerrish. He created it in 1999. I've been using it ever since, and I teach my clients this. And it's a blueprint for diversification, not specification. And then I guess the last one that we have to really get to is we have to start living a joy-based life instead of a metric-driven life. Instead of sitting there and going, oh my God, I've got my Apple Watch on, I've got to hit my goals, right? We have to be able to stop and go, I'm pretty blessed to move my body and move it in a certain way. And I need to be able to love myself. I need to be able to nurture myself. So that means I may have to back off to refresh, to become joyful again, you know, instead of metric driven. And in my industry, a lot of people who come to me and, the people who work there at Rooted Somatics, they're so wrapped up in the metrics that they don't even know how to have fun.
Yes, I know a couple people like that. And so do you. Yes. That's a hard one for some people.
It is, because now you've got to get into what's called body talk. And this is the last part of this. You've got to be able to talk to your body, because your body will hold the score. Everybody's probably heard of the famous book, Besser van der Kolk's Body Keeps the Score. But before him, there was a person, Paul Levine, that wrote a book called Walking with the Tiger, right? And what it means is that our body is not there for us to beat up. Our body is for us to become cohabitating. We're synergistically. Our mind and our body have to be synced up. The body's just not something that I can keep pushing around, because eventually you're going to blow a head gasket, or you're going to blow a gear, or you're going to have all kinds of problems. So this talk, I wanted to give people a different way of looking at it.
Mhm.
And the best example is the two prisoners story. There's two prisoners, they're in a cell. They're
Right.
looking out a window. The one goes, oh man, look at all the garbage down here. And the one guy's, yeah, look about the sky. We have to be able to take that time to put on a different set of glasses and look at our lives from a different standpoint. And hopefully we get to a point where our joints can last a lot longer. And then we don't have to have artificial joints, because when you have an artificial joint, you have a change in postural, you have a change in structural dynamics and stuff. So therefore, you've just changed a lot more. So hopefully this helps people see a different side of the equation.
Yes. And this was very informative. And I can see a lot of, all of us that are coaches that are on here, and it's guests have worked with people that have these situations.
Mhm.
And this is a whole different way of looking at a lot of that. Because I can only speak really for myself, but when I was 235 pounds, I worked at this retirement community in the general services department, and they were putting on a show, and I was supposed to be part of the show, and we
Mhm.
were doing belly dancing. And okay, so when you are fluffy like that,
Mhm.
and you don't look at yourself because of the shame,
Mhm. Yep, there's number
because
one. See? Yep.
yeah, and people have told you that you should be better and more not perfect, but better,
Mhm.
and put you down and different things. And to have to look at myself in the mirror,
Mhm.
learning belly dancing was one of the hardest things that I had to do at that point. Like,
Hmm.
and
Well, what did you gain from it?
by the time we were done and I was up on stage, I gained a lot.
There you go.
I did, because I don't know what exactly happened, but I found I could do the moves and I could
Hmm.
move. It's kind of toned up a little bit and it wasn't so bad. And,
Sure.
you know, and I had more confidence. And it was brutal in the beginning. I started crying. And I forget what her name is. She was the director of I forget, social director
Hmm.
for this place. And she's like, "What's wrong?" And so she had me say, so I could say, because I wasn't going to say, "Oh, I'm too fat," in front of all of these women that are, and some of them are like size 5. You know, you got your size 10, and I'm a 22.
Okay.
And so I told her, and she's like, "This is normal. What is it? This is a form of therapy.
Certainly.
You look at yourself in the mirror and you have to learn to accept yourself where you're at and work
Yeah.
towards better. Or just better is accepting where you're at right now."
Hmm.
And I remember the day, the first show, the newspaper was there, and I'm walking down the aisle doing my thing, and I posed for the guy so that
Yeah.
he could take a picture. Like, I wouldn't have done that like the 2.5 months before, because
Hmm.
I didn't look at myself as pretty or anything. Like, I'm not even going to say what I thought of myself because it's awful.
It's a
But
scalpel, not a feather.
yes, I had to use a feather. I fluffed myself a little bit off, but and then
That's it. Yeah. Yeah.
and other thing too is I was able to start exercising, and I
Yep.
knew, because she taught me, she
Hmm.
taught what my limits were. If something hurts, this is the kind of hurt that's normal. But if you keep doing it and it hurts at that normal, then you're pushing, and then you're going to have like pain, like that's bad, like
No
tearing your
pain, no
bicep.
gain. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that I think that the one thing I want to add with that is when we get to a point where we're tired of feeling pain and we've realized that it's cost us so much, the moment we're no longer willing to sacrifice that cost is the moment that life switches and flips. And a lot of times, my job as a compassionate body worker who brings pain, because, not everybody can take me, right?
No.
And I know that, okay? But when I do it and I get you to get on that stage and expose your belly dancing, and I get you to understand that you have to go through the pain to get to the other side.
Mhm.
Like Pema Chodron said in her famous book, "Let pain be the doorway towards salvation," right? You're basically looking at it and saying, "I've got to get to the other side." But to
Mhm.
do that, you can't go around it, you can't go under it, and you can't go, beside it. You got to go through it. So I hope everybody out there, if this has resonated with you, I hope you've taken a couple of this stuff. I hope you have a really good um, body talk session with yourself. But more importantly, go belly dancing.
It's amazing, actually, because it did inspire me after that.
Yeah,
I lost a bunch of weight. I
that's
got fit,
awesome.
I got healthy, and I didn't actually. I dropped in size, but not necessarily weight, because I was able to. I mean, my muscles were toned. I was able to actually start exercising in a healthy way, and I
Right.
would get up every morning at 5:30 in the morning for a very long time, and I would exercise before I would go to get ready for work. And that was a big thing for me, because I'm a night owl and I like to sleep in. And we do have a couple hands up. So AJ, you would like to unmute and join us on the screen. There you go.
Tim, I mean, I hear you. But what can we do at home? Do we need to meditate? Are there other techniques? And you talked about the inner voice. How do we hear the inner voice? Like,
That's a
what
great question.
do we do?
You can journal. You can journal.
Journal. Okay.
You could talk to friends about it. You could walk out in nature. You could go for a hike. A lot of times we don't want to spend time with ourselves. And from a Buddhist standpoint, that's where a lot of our problems exist, is because if we can't stay in the room by ourselves for 10 minutes, then we don't even know who we are. So we're on Facebook, we're on social media going, oh, I got to learn. No, what you're doing is avoiding. You know, when you're able to really look at, and also you can get a therapist. I mean, I can't tell you how much therapy has helped me. This time in my life, when I was traumatized, when I was younger, I was angry. I wanted everybody to pay the price. Right now, I can talk to a therapist. I have therapists. You know, I need a therapist. I'm wallowing in the cesspool of all this trauma that everybody's going through. But a lot of times it's just start. Just start. And when you get to a point where you're like, oh, this is not working, don't grab up the scalpel, grab the feather and go, okay, what else can I do? And a lot of it is just getting out of your comfort zone, because comfort equals death. You know, it equals that slow death. You get into the matrix, you eat your piece of steak, and you're like, wow, this is pretty cool. But then life comes by and smacks you in the head and says, hey, let's take a look at it from a different angle. But there's all kinds of different ways. But you have to be willing to say enough is enough, and I'm going to do it. And have, like I talked about before, what is the belief? What is the conditioning? And what means a lot to you? Not the weight, it's how you feel with the weight loss. I mean, I went from 280 to 235. I had a torn bicep, and I'm like, great, now I can't be Big Tim anymore. So I became a yoga instructor. So you know what I mean? There's all kinds of different ways, especially now. Back in the 80s, there wasn't this quick access to have all these subject matter experts on Facebook that you can look at. But I will tell you, if you are doom scrolling and you're going, find one person, find something that resonates with you, write it down, spend a couple days with it, get intimate with it, and then integrate it into your life and see what happens.
Okay. I'll give it a whirl, man. I'll report back.
Okay.
You know, I'm still confused, but I will report back.
Well, what is confusion?
How do you know which one is the inner voice? I don't want to tell everybody got all these different voices.
The inner voice is the one that you really don't want to pay attention to. The inner voice is the one that you will shut off as quickly as it starts to talk to you. The one you want to sit down and have a fireside chat? Nope. That's not the inner voice. That's the comfortable voice. And there's some great books out there. Look up Body Talk and look up Feldenkrais and Alexander Technique and all these different things. I mean, I'm sure, you know, you can go to the bookstore and how to talk to yourself and all that stuff. But a lot of us would rather through glass than really look at ourselves truthfully.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you. And Miss Rebecca Dukes, you have your hand up, so let's unmute. Yeah, there you go.
Hey, Tim, Ruth Ellen, Tim, fantastic. I love this.
Awesome.
And experiencing your table I think really gives me a greater personal insight as to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because it's not just hearing somebody talk, it's
Mm-mm.
actually feeling it happen.
Yeah.
Which
And
is,
there's a lot of stuff. I mean, remember, I told you, we don't die by the snake bite, we die by the poison it puts in us. And a lot of times the industry is looking for the snake bite.
mm-hmm.
And what we have to do is we got to get in there and get that poison and get it out and let your body do what it's supposed to do, heal itself.
Yeah. Well, and that healing part has to do with one of the questions Donna is asking. What can we do to help ourselves get out of depression?
Ooh. Well, I can honestly say that I was depressed for a very long time in my life. And when I realized this next statement, it helped me, and I hope it helps Donna. Depression is anger turned inward.
Mm.
Mhm.
So let's say that
That
again.
was
Depression is
depression is anger
anger
turned inwards.
words.
So when I work with people who are chronically depressed, they have a therapist, that's fine. A lot of times what I'm finding out is they're depressed because they were either traumatized, they were told that they don't matter, they were told that their opinion, they're not supposed to have an opinion. And other times it's also a chemical reaction in your body. And from my experience, a lot of people who have been depressed they don't know where to go because they have to go through the anger.
Mm-hmm.
They have to go through that anger.
So my question, kind of bouncing off of going through that anger,
Mhm.
is continually repeating and reliving it beneficial?
See, that's where I think we go wrong. I think the healing model needs to be flipped differently. You get to a point where you keep ripping open that scab and it bleeds and then it scars and it bleeds and it scars and stuff. How about we look at it and say, okay, I was traumatized, right? The past is the past. The best part about the past, it's over. So if you're traumatized and you're depressed, really what it is it's possible paralysis by analysis. It's basically looking at it going, oh my God, this is so damn big. I can't focus on it. So I'm just going to shut down from it. So for me, my anger when I was younger, yeah, I was abused. I was abused really hard. And what I realized is that we can either, the quote Shawshank Redemption, we can either get busy living or get busy dying. And if this person is suffering from depression, if they're getting quality help, that's awesome. But a lot of times the body is creating that chemical structure that is either changing the dopamine levels, serotonin levels, or the GABA receptors, and their nervous system, their fight or flight system is usually so overworked.
I remember being depressed and stuck. Didn't think that
Yeah.
there was.
Yeah, you're like, where am I going to go? Like, what do you do? And then somebody throws you a lifeline. For
Yeah.
me, my lifeline was the fact that I learned my craft. So all hell was breaking through in my personal life, but nobody could touch my professional life. I was healing people and helping people. And I mean, you got to think about what kind of cosmic dog stuff I stepped in, because I've had a lot of people on the table and they've healed me just as much as I've helped them.
And as healers, I mean, there's a lot of that reciprocating.
Yeah,
Just
it's a two-way street. It's not my way or the highway. It's okay, I'm sharing myself with you. You share yourself with me. I take a little piece of my soul. So when we're born, our soul's fractured into 12,000 pieces or more. And every day we just got to pick up a little bit and go, okay, I'm going to come back there. Right. And then, you start there. There's a great book out there called Swallowed by the Snake. And it's usually it's geared towards sexual trauma or personal body trauma. And if I get swallowed by a snake, how do I get out? I realize that I'm a human being. I can manifest a fork and a knife. And what I do is I pull out the fork and the knife, I'm inside the belly, and I start taking one bite at a time. And before you know it, I've eaten my way through the snake and I'm out to freedom. So just that person for depression, just try to take one bite and the next day take another bite and try to change 10% every single day. Don't go full bore and say, okay, I'm going to write this major drama page. Just one bite. If you're overweight, do what I do. You have three options when it comes to working out. There's days when I get up in the morning and I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, I don't really want to work out. But what I do is I made a goal with myself that at least if I get on my recumbent bike and I just do that for a half hour and then I do my 100 reps of an exercise, that's it. And then number two is if I have more gumption, I'll get on my treadmill or my elliptical, or I'll get on my rower. But what I do is I don't lose momentum. And for me and for the clients, depression is losing momentum.
yeah, absolutely.
You can relate to it, right?
I can relate to that. Absolutely. Yeah. For sure. All right. Well, I know that we're past the top of the hour. Ruth Ellen, back to you.
Okay. I don't know if you have time. I think Julio had a question, and do you still have
I've
time?
got till 4:30. So don't worry about it.
All right. So Julio, if you'd like to unmute, you won't be able to see Julio, but I'm going to ask you to unmute. So if you have a question,
Okay.
welcome, Julio.
Hello, everybody. And thank you, Tim, for your incredible insights. I love it. I just love this podcast. They're so related.
Oh, that's cool. Thank you, Julio.
They're all related. And we all speak like different languages, but at the end, it's the same interpretation, which I love very much. Very much.
Amen, brother. Amen.
Yes, Tim, I just wanted to add from experience. We all have been abused and we all have gone through our difficulties. And I love what you said. And you talked about the subconscious and the programming and all that. I'm a big meditator. I love meditation. And I heard someone, I think it was Rob or somebody says, how do we hear or what do we do? So for me, meditation has worked very well to listen to my inner voice and to recognize which voice is good and which voice is not good. If the voice gives me peace and love in whatever I'm going to manifest, I know that that is the right voice. If that little voice comes from anger, lust, greed, or any of the vices, then I know it comes from my ego. So I learned in chaos, it's when the ego is talking. And when the ego wants to manifest things in his own way, then what we're doing I mean, I speak for myself, and I learned so much because it took me away from that whole. The chaos was helping me to really just observe inside of me, myself, my essence. So shifting from the chaos to the essence is, for me, is the key. And to be focused on that, it's not easy, it's challenging. And that programming, I know, I think it's kind of hard to explain it. I don't know the viewers here, but it comes from previous lives. People that are afraid, for instance, of water or heights or phobias, it's because they probably passed away in that particular area. And they call it sanskaras. That's the name they give it in Hindi. The sanskaras are there in the mental. So our job as human beings right now, and I love what you said, we are humans, we are spirits having a human experience, not the other way around, is to just be observers of that sanskara so we can undo it. And that's our mission. So if I'm afraid of water, I need to face that fear and then swim. That's my job. Oh, I learned how to swim in this life. Get it over with. Next. What's my next fear? It sounds so simple, but it's not.
And, I mean, Julio, what you're talking about, you're saying what is supposed to be said, and we all need to understand that. I used to meditate. I used to meditate a lot. And I studied Buddhism and stuff like that. And what I did is I started to realize that I wanted to meditate with my problems next to me.
Beautiful.
Instead of meditating to clear my mind. Because, Alan Watts, the great Alan Watts said, when you meditate and you clear your mind, you're dead.
Agreed.
And when I went to India and I had a spiritual experience on the Ganges, and I was able to really realize, because I saw the funeral pyres and I saw the charnel ground. So when you start talking about what Julio's talking about, when you meditate, just take a little bit of your problems and put it right next to you. And then when you get up from that zafu or that meditation, put it in your pocket that's got a hole in it, and you walk around like Shawshank Redemption, and you let it just go.
Love it. Beautiful. Yes, I agree. Agree.
Amen.
Thank you. I agree. Thank you.
Thank you, Julio.
Thank you, Julio. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Tim. This has been awesome. I love it.
I hope everybody enjoyed it.
I think that they did. So if I get my co-hosts to come on and join us on the screen, we can close out. Do you have any last thing that you would like to say before we do that, Tim? No? Okay.
Belly dance.
Belly dance. I know, and I love it, but I haven't done it for a little while, but you know why. So
you'll get back into it.
I will. All right. So thank you so much, Tim. And people, you can reach him at rootedsomatics.com. Correct? And Rooted Somatics Facebook page on Facebook. And do you have a Twitter or anything else, or is it just Facebook?
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, we've got our website. We've got also Instagram.
Okay. Rooted Somatics on Facebook, Instagram. And we are working on getting videos on the YouTube channel, but we only have a little bit there. So all righty. Thank you. So, and rootedsomatics.com. So thank you so much. And then we have
everybody.
And on my screen, I have Rebecca Dukes, who is our producer and the owner of Better by the Then Daily Talk. Yes. And none of us would be here without her and you. And then we have Marilyn, who is Miss Speedy Fingers, who has been typing in one of the benefits of being on Zoom is you can see what she is typing, everything that is being said pretty much, almost every single word. And then she adds stuff to it. I don't know how she does that, but she's awesome. So thank you for all that you do, Marilyn. It's a big job, and we're really, truly grateful for that. And then we have Albert, who is our warden, and he is a gentleman. I don't know what else to say about Albert. He's just a true gentleman. And he's letting people in and keeping an eye on things. And, it's late at night for him. So thank you for being here. And if you call the hotline, which is 855-949-3377, if you want to speak to a certified holistic health coach and it's nighttime, Albert is probably the one that you will be speaking to. So thank you for doing that while we sleep, Albert. And then we have Rod, who is also a personal trainer, and he is also helping with the platforms and different things, responding to people, and also keeping an eye on things. So thank you, Rod. And then we have Sherry, who's part of our tech crew, and she is here keeping an eye on Facebook and helping send out what I'm sending. Then she sends it to the other platforms, and she helps the show run smooth. And tomorrow she's going to be speaking. She is going to be our guest tomorrow. And Old Time Remedies in Your Kitchen Cabinet, I believe is the title. Is that correct? Awesome. So please join us.
I got to check that one out.
Yes, you will really like it, Tim. You will. Definitely, because she's good. She's good at it. And then we have AJ, who is our digital marketing director, and he helped get us on all the different platforms that he pushed us to get on the different platforms. And there is not enough words to say what he does for us here on Daily with Doc and Becca. There aren't words. So thank you for all that you do, AJ. You are a true gem. So glad we found you. We found each other. So my name is Ruth. God, I can talk. Ruth Ellen Sanchez, and it was my honor to be the host today with Tim. Thank you so much again for coming.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you. So if somebody referred you to this program, please make sure to get back with them. And always remember that this program is for educational purposes only. We are not here to diagnose, treat, or cure any diseases, nor are we meant to take the place of your primary care physician. And if you have questions that you would like answered by a certified holistic health coach, please send them to questions@dailywithdoc.com. And if you have a medical question that requires one of our doctors for us to confer with them, make sure you give us the medications that you're taking, the diagnosis that you have, and your height, weight, age, and if you're a man or a woman, and your phone number, please, so we can call you instead of sending you a message saying, I need more information. Can I have your phone number? Just provide it for us. That would be super wonderful. So thank you so much, everybody, for being here. And we will see you all tomorrow with Sherry and find out what kind of old-time remedies are in your spice cabinet. Thank you so much, everybody, for now.
Bye, everybody. Thank you. Welcome to Daily with Doc and Becca. This program is for educational purposes only. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences of the individual sharing their testimony. Results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach.